They call us Knights of the Air, gentlemen warriors fighting clean battles above the mud and filth. The last chivalrous war, they say. Romantic. There's nothing romantic about burning alive at 3,000 feet. I'm 42 years old, and I haven't been in an airplane since November 1918. Can't even look at one without my hands starting to shake. Last month, some barnstormer came through town offering rides, $5 to see the world from above. Watched a crowd gather, all excited, children pointing at the sky. I walked the other way. Robert Mitchell, Philadelphia. Class of 1915 at the University of Pennsylvania. Studied engineering because my father said it was practical, but I spent most of my time reading about the war in Europe. By 1917, I couldn't stand sitting in classrooms anymore while men were fighting and dying across the Atlantic. America entered the war in April. I enlisted in May. The Army sent me to flight training in Texas. Turned out I was good at it, better than good. I could feel the aircraft, understand it, make it do things the instructors said were impossible. I soloed after 8 hours, had my wings in 3 months. They rushed us through. They needed pilots in France, needed them desperately. I thought I was lucky, thought I'd escaped the trenches, escaped the mud and gas and rotting bodies, thought being a pilot meant something better. Clean combat, skill against skill, man against man in the open sky. I was 22 years old, and I didn't know a goddamn thing. They shipped me to France in January 1918. Assigned me to the 94th Aero Squadron, the hat-in-the-ring boys. Gave me a SPAD-13 fighter, 220 horsepower, twin Vickers machine guns. Beautiful machine. I loved that airplane the moment I saw it. 10 months later, I watched my best friend burn to death in one just like it. The Knights of the Air. That's what they called us. I'll tell you what we really were. My first combat patrol was February 14th, 1918, Valentine's Day. I remember thinking that was funny somehow, romantic even. 6 of us took off from our aerodrome near Toul just after dawn. The sky was clear, cold, beautiful. You could see for miles up there. Captain James led the flight, veteran with 9 kills, calm as Sunday morning. He'd briefed us the night before. Stay in formation. Watch for German scouts. Don't break off alone, no matter what. The Hun will bait you, he said. 1 plane running, looking easy. You chase him, and suddenly there's 5 more diving on you from the sun. Stay together or die alone. I nodded, memorized every word. Thought I understood. We climbed to 12,000 feet, headed toward the lines. You could see them from up there. A brown scar cutting across the green landscape, stretching from horizon to horizon. The trenches looked almost peaceful from that height. Couldn't see the men dying. Couldn't hear the guns. Just lines in the earth. We patrolled for maybe 30 minutes. My first time over enemy territory, and I kept checking my instruments, checking the sky, checking everything twice. Nervous as hell, but trying not to show it. The other new pilot, kid named Danny Walsh from Boston, flew on my right wing. He gave me a thumbs up. I gave one back. Then Captain James waggled his wings, the signal, enemy aircraft. I saw them a moment later. 5 German Albatross scouts, maybe 1,000 feet below us, heading west, probably looking for observation planes to shoot down. James pointed down and pushed his nose over. We followed. The dive was incredible. The wind screaming past, the engine roaring, everything shaking. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. This was it. Real combat. Everything I'd trained for. The Germans saw us coming. They broke formation, scattered like birds. I picked one and followed him down, trying to get into firing position. He jinked left, then right. I stayed with him. Closer, closer, got him in my sights. I pressed the trigger. The Vickers guns hammered, tracers arcing out. Missed. The German pulled up hard, and suddenly he was behind me. I heard the rattle of his guns, felt the impacts, thunk, 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 hitting my aircraft. Terror. Pure, absolute terror. Nothing in training prepares you for that sound, for knowing someone is shooting at you, trying to kill you. I threw the stick hard over, dove away, pulled out low, maybe 2,000 feet, completely lost. No idea where my squadron was, where the German was, where anything was. That's when I learned the first rule of air combat. Everything you think you know is worthless until someone's actually trying to kill you. I made it back to the aerodrome that day, barely. My SPAD had 7 bullet holes in it. The riggers counted them, slapped me on the back, said I was lucky. Captain James found me in the hangar, staring at those holes. "You broke formation," he said, not angry, just stating fact. "I know, sir. I'm sorry. I thought I could..." Don't think. Not up there. Thinking gets you killed. React, survive, get home. That's all that matters. He was right. But it took me 3 more weeks to get my first kill, and by then I'd learned what air combat really was. It wasn't dueling, wasn't chivalrous, it was murder. March 8th, 1918, morning patrol. We caught a German 2-seater over Verdun. Observation plane, slow, defenseless against fighters. The observer in the rear seat had a machine gun, but it wasn't enough. Captain James dove on them first, guns blazing. I was right behind him. I got into position maybe 50 yards behind and below them. Perfect shot. The observer was firing at me, but the bullets went wide. I could see him clearly. Young face behind his goggles, maybe my age, desperately trying to swing his gun around. I pressed the trigger, held it down. The Vickers guns hammered, and I watched my tracers walk right into that aircraft, saw the fabric tear, saw the observer jerk and slump over, saw the pilot twist in his seat, looking back. The German plane nosed down, started falling, spinning. The pilot was still alive, still trying to control it, but something was damaged. It went into a flat spin, the worst kind, unrecoverable. I followed them down. Don't know why. Couldn't look away. Watched them fall 3,000 feet, spinning, spinning. The pilot never stopped trying, never gave up, just kept fighting the controls all the way down until they hit the ground in a shell crater near Fort Douaumont. There was no explosion, no fire, just impact. 1 second they were there, the next they weren't. I'd killed 2 men. My squadron mates were cheering over the radio. My first confirmed kill. I was an ace in training now. I threw up in my oxygen mask on the way home. April brought more fighting, more kills. I got good at it. That's the terrible truth. Found I had a talent for it. Could predict where an enemy would turn, could put my bullets exactly where they needed to go. By May, I had 6 confirmed kills. They started calling me Mitch the Hun Hunter. But I also watched men die, really die. Not quick, not clean. Lieutenant Parker from Vermont took incendiary rounds through his fuel tank. His SPAD became a torch in seconds. He didn't jump. We didn't have parachutes. High command thought they'd make pilots cowards, so he just sat there and burned, screaming on the radio until the fire got to him. We flew alongside, watching, unable to do anything. It took maybe 30 seconds for him to die. Felt like hours. Sergeant Morrison got his jaw shot away. Half his face just gone. But he was still alive, still conscious, and he managed to fly his shot-up plane back to our field. Landed it somehow. Died 2 days later from infection, unable to speak, writing notes about the pain. Danny Walsh, the kid who'd given me the thumbs up on my first patrol, got jumped by a German ace in June. I was there. Watched the German Fokker come out of the sun. Watched Danny try to turn. Too slow, too late. The Germans' guns found him. Danny's SPAD came apart in the air. Wings folded back, fuselage broke in half. He fell 4,000 feet in pieces. I shot down the German the next day, got him from behind, riddled his plane with bullets, watched him crash, felt nothing, just empty. The newspapers loved us. Knights of the Air defend freedom. We got fan mail from girls back home, requests for autographs. They sent reporters to interview us about the romance of aerial combat. Romance. I'd watched my friend fall in pieces, watched Parker burn alive, killed men who never saw me coming, shot them in the back because that's how you survive. There was no romance, just killing, dying, and waiting your turn. Summer of 1918. The Germans launched their last big offensive, and we flew 3, sometimes 4 patrols a day. Exhausting, brutal work. You'd land from one mission, grab some food, maybe an hour's sleep, then back up again. The faces at the aerodrome kept changing. New pilots would arrive, fresh from training, eager and scared. We'd learn their names, try to teach them something that might keep them alive. Most didn't last a week. I stopped learning their names after a while. Couldn't take it. The kid with red hair who was so excited to fly, dead on his second patrol. The tall one from Michigan who wanted to be an ace, burned 2 days after he arrived. The quiet one who reminded me of my brother, flew into the ground in a fog, never even saw combat. They just kept coming, kept dying. The squadron maintained its numbers, but the faces were always different. Captain James and I became the veterans, the old men at 22 and 28. We'd look at each other across the mess hall sometimes, not saying anything, both thinking the same thing. When's our turn? July brought my 12th kill, then my 15th. I was an ace 3 times over. They wanted to send me home for a publicity tour, the heroic American ace. I refused, couldn't explain why. Maybe because going home meant admitting all of this was real, that I'd really done these things. Up here in the air at the aerodrome, it was like a dream, a nightmare you might wake up from. The drinking started around then. Most of us drank, but it got worse as summer wore on. We'd sit in the officers' mess after missions, passing bottles, not talking much. What was there to say? We all knew what we were doing. We all knew what was waiting for us. I met a French girl in the village near our field. Marie. She worked at a cafe. Pretty smile, kind eyes, didn't speak much English. I didn't speak much French. Didn't matter. For a few hours here and there with her, I could pretend to be human again. Pretend I wasn't a killer. Pretend my hands weren't stained with blood I could never wash off. She asked me once through broken English and gestures, how many Germans I'd killed. I held up 15 fingers. She looked at me differently after that. Not scared exactly, just distant, like she'd seen something in me she hadn't noticed before. I stopped visiting her after that, couldn't bear that look. August. We lost Captain James, best pilot in the squadron, 43 confirmed kills, survived 2 years of combat. Got jumped by 6 German Fokkers while he was escorting a photo reconnaissance mission. We tried to help him, but there were too many. I saw him take hits, saw his plane start smoking. He dove for our lines, trying to make it back. He didn't. Crashed maybe 2 miles behind German trenches. Died doing his duty, they said. Heroic sacrifice. He was 28 years old, and he'd survived 100 combats. Got killed protecting a damn camera plane. They made me flight commander after that. Gave me his job, his responsibility. I was supposed to lead the new kids, teach them, keep them alive. I couldn't even keep myself together anymore. September 12th, 1918, the day I broke. I was leading a patrol of 4 aircraft. 2 veterans, myself and Lieutenant Harrison, and 2 new kids fresh from training. Thompson and Briggs, I think their names were. I'd stopped really learning them, but I tried with these 2. Thompson was from Iowa, wanted to be a doctor after the war. Briggs was from Tennessee, had a girl waiting for him back home. I told them the rules. Stay in formation. Don't chase singles. Watch for traps. They nodded, eager, ready to prove themselves. We caught a German formation over Saint-Mihiel. Even numbers, 4 against 4. A fair fight, if there was such a thing in the air. I called the attack and we dove on them. The fight scattered immediately. Aircraft spinning, diving, climbing, chaos. I got on a German's tail, fired a burst, saw him break off smoking, didn't follow, turned back to check on my flight. Briggs was gone, just gone. I never saw what happened to him. 1 second he was there, the next he wasn't. Probably got shot down in the first 30 seconds. Thompson was trying to turn with a German Fokker. Turning left, tight circle. The German right behind him. I could see what was about to happen. Could see it like watching a train wreck in slow motion. I dove toward them, screaming into the radio. "Brake right, Thompson! Brake right!" He didn't hear me, or didn't react fast enough. The German's guns lit up. Thompson's SPAD shuddered. I saw pieces fly off, saw the cockpit get torn apart. The German pulled off. Thompson's plane kept flying level for a few seconds like nothing had happened. Then it nosed down, started diving, faster, faster. I followed, still calling to him, knowing he was dead, but calling anyway. He went straight into the ground at full speed. The impact crater was maybe 10 feet across. There was nothing left, nothing to bury, nothing to send home to his family, just a hole in the earth and scattered pieces of aluminum and wood. I climbed back up. The fight was over. Harrison had shot down 1 German. The other 2 had fled. We'd won. 2 kills for 2 losses. The mathematics of aerial combat. Acceptable exchange, command would say. I flew back to the aerodrome on autopilot, landed, shut down the engine, sat in the cockpit for maybe 20 minutes, just sitting there, staring at nothing. Harrison came over. "You all right, Skipper?" I couldn't answer, couldn't speak. Something had broken inside me. Not dramatically, not violently, just broken. Like a rope that's been fraying for months, finally giving way. Thompson wanted to be a doctor, going to save lives after the war. I'd led him into combat and watched him die, and I couldn't even bring his body home, couldn't give his family anything to bury. Just a telegram. Killed in action. 3 words to sum up a life. That night, I sat in my quarters with Captain James's revolver. They'd given me his things when I took over his command. I held that gun for 2 hours, thought about it. Really thought about it. I didn't do it. Don't know why. Cowardice, maybe. Or just too tired to care anymore. But that was the night I realized I wasn't fighting anymore. I was just waiting to die. The war ended November 11th, 1918. I survived. 18 confirmed kills, 7 months of combat, 4 aircraft shot out from under me. They gave me medals, Distinguished Service Cross, Croix de Guerre from the French, sent me home a hero. I arrived in Philadelphia 2 days before Christmas. My parents met me at the station. My mother cried. My father shook my hand, told me he was proud. They had a party planned. All the relatives, the neighbors, everyone wanted to see the ace pilot. I lasted an hour before I had to leave. Too many people. Too many questions. What was it like? Did you really shoot down 18 Germans? Were you scared? They wanted stories. They wanted glory. They wanted a hero. I gave them excuses and walked out into the December cold. Walked for hours. Ended up at a bar somewhere in South Philly, drinking alone until they threw me out at closing. That set the pattern for the next 20 years. I tried going back to university. Lasted 1 semester. Couldn't focus. Couldn't sit in a classroom full of kids who'd never seen death, listening to professors lecture about engineering principles while all I could think about was Thompson's plane diving into the ground, Parker burning, Danny Walsh falling in pieces. The nightmares were constant. Still are. I dream I'm back in the cockpit, flames coming through the floorboards, controls not responding, falling, always falling. I wake up gasping, sometimes screaming. Landlords have asked me to leave 3 different apartments because of the noise. I worked a dozen different jobs, factory work, construction, sold insurance for a while. Nothing lasted more than a few months. Couldn't explain to employers why I'd disappear sometimes, why I'd freeze up when I heard loud noises, why I couldn't be around crowds. The Army Air Service wanted me to stay on, offered me a position training new pilots. I refused. Couldn't imagine teaching boys to do what I'd done. Couldn't look them in the eye knowing I'd be preparing them to kill or die. I never married. Dated a few women over the years. But how do you explain that you can't sleep through the night? That you drink too much because it's the only way to quiet the memories? That sometimes you look at your hands and see blood that isn't there? They deserved better than a broken man who couldn't tell them what broke him. The air shows started in the 20s. Barnstormers performing tricks, offering rides, making aviation seem like fun again. I went to one in 1923. Thought maybe seeing planes again would help somehow. Watched a pilot do loops and rolls while the crowd cheered. I had a panic attack right there in the field. First time that had happened. Couldn't breathe, couldn't move, just stood there shaking while people stared. Someone called a doctor. He gave me something to calm down, asked what was wrong. What could I tell him? That I'd watched men burn in those machines? That every engine sound brought back the memory of combat? That I couldn't look at an airplane without seeing Thompson's SPAD diving into the earth? I haven't been near an airplane since. The newspapers still write about the war sometimes. The aces, the heroes, the knights of the air. They interview Eddie Rickenbacker. He became famous, successful, everything I couldn't be. He talks about the glory of aerial combat, the excitement, the honor. Maybe it was different for him. Maybe he found a way to live with it that I never could. Or maybe he's just better at lying. I live alone now. Small apartment, few possessions, no real connections. I do odd jobs for cash when I need it. The VA sends me a small disability pension. Nervous condition, they call it on the paperwork. $28 a month. Price of a damaged mind. I'm 42 years old. The war ended 20 years ago. But I'm still up there, still fighting, still watching men die, still waiting for the bullets to find me, for the flames to start, for the long fall that never ends. They called us Knights of the Air, heroes, the finest young men of our generation. But here's what they don't tell you about being a knight. Knights die young, in glory, and everyone remembers them fondly. I survived. I'm 42, and I've been dead for 20 years. No glory, no honor. Just ghosts and memories and the bottle. Thompson wanted to be a doctor. Parker wanted to see his daughter again. Danny wanted to marry his sweetheart. They died, and I killed 18 men, and none of it meant a goddamn thing. The war ended. I'm still fighting, still losing, and I'll never fly again.